It wasn't a big deal. I just, like you say, it's just, there's a lot of, in terms of how you take it. Exactly, yeah. Why don't we formally set something up?
Okay, I need to find out what key number that bike ride is too, so I can key the new one to match that.
That's okay. The one that we already have? Right? Some guy named Ross.
It makes it easier on input as
Should I start getting all your checks? Let's see if we can get.
Hey, chief.
Well, from the radio. Let's look back, like, has been talking to Golden when I talked to him, so like.
So I come back. Jeff did a crew. Divided it.
Yeah. So I said, you want me to send it to time?
Well, I appreciate you guys.
My wife, that's what I've always an hour from like. Mayor. What's that? Oh, he knows. Yeah, I called.
You got $3,000 just lying around?
Are you gonna be in your office? It's right here in my pocket. But that's gonna be nothing.
I heard someone say chief, but I don't remember who. Who was it? Probably chief. My guys are running code unmarked cars last week. Imagine that. We'll get started. Yeah, I know. That's what I said too. I'm like,
It's good to have you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I feel obligated to drink it all now.
Okay. Want to welcome everybody out to the Roy City Council meeting. This is November 1st, 2022. Time is now 5:30. I want to recognize that we have Councilmember Wilson, Councilmember Sophie Paul, Councilmember Scadden, Councilmember Joe Paul, Youth Council Member Ms. Parker, and Ann is not able to be with us tonight. We've asked Councilmember Scadden, if you, Saxton, I had to move my finger there for a second. Sorry, Randy.
You're fine.
If you would go ahead and lead us in a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. Thank you, Randy.
If you could all join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. If you could say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, we got some consent items, specifically financial statements, July 2022, August 2022, and September 2022, as well as city council meetings for August 2nd, August 16th, September 6th, and September 20th. Council, any comments, corrections, additions to these consent items?
I have a few minor changes, which I've already submitted to Brittany,
Okay,
the minutes.
and so Diane, you've made some corrections?
Yes.
Perfect. Council, anything else?
Make a motion, we accept with the adjustments.
Okay, I got a motion to approve the consent items with the adjustments.
I'll second it.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, those are approved. Thank you. This is public comment period. If you have anything you'd like to share with us, please come up to the mic. Just give us your name and address and share anything you'd like to share with us. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on from public comment. We do have a presentation. Chief Gwen, I believe you're helping us. This is Roy City Ordinance, specifically Title VI, Motor Vehicle and Traffic, On-Street Trailer Parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm only going to be helping a little. I'm actually here today with Officer Travis Curl. He came to me, probably a month or so ago and said, hey, I hear you're getting some emails about some trailer parking. You may or may not be getting those same emails. And so he presented some options to me, and I says, those are great. I'd like you to run with them. You can come up with a plan, you can come present to the council, and you can take your idea and hopefully turn it into something substantive. So we like to empower our staff, and he's here and he's excited to present to you tonight.
Okay.
Like a guy with some initiative.
Thank you.
Yep, that'll work. Okay, so kind of just to give you a quick background. So I've been with the city almost for a year. I got
Can you
1 week
eat the
left.
mic? Can you get
Come
a little
closer to the mic.
closer?
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've been with the city just 1 week short of a year now. And in my time here, I found we get a lot of parking complaints. And one of the things is a lot of on-street trailer parking complaints. And as I'm going through the code, I found we didn't necessarily have one that fits the needs of the city. So there's a little bit of purpose and scope here. See if we can.
Break it.
Well, I only touched one thing and broke it, so let's see if we can fix it.
You want to move it up to the podium so he doesn't have to come away from the mic?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Much easier.
So, like I said, we identified a few problems, and one of the major issues was for me. I was responding to a call for service in the inner city, lights and sirens. Obviously, we give a lot of care, even as we're responding for any pedestrian traffic. And we'll see a picture here shortly, but there were 2 trailers parked on either side of the road, and it provided such a narrow gap for me to pass through, but also limited my visibility to the point where I had to slow down well below even a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So if you can see here, as I went through the city, it was readily apparent there's on-street trailer parking happening everywhere. So we have trucks attached to trailers. We have trailers being stored in the street. On-street semi-trailer parking. So as it currently stands, it really limits our ability to move some of these ATV trailers, camping trailers, dump trailers on the roadway. And if you could imagine 2900 West across from the park, if we were to fill that street full of trailers, currently those residents have to get parking passes. But trying to respond to somebody at the park who had, fell on a skateboard and broke their leg, trying to move emergency vehicles through there with trailer parking is almost impossible. So some of the proposed changes that we have is just a little bit of language update. To further identify what a trailer is, and basically identify a trailer in there as any trailer. Very, very broad, which allows for a little bit more uniformity in how we apply this city ordinance and this law. So really quickly, I hate to read from the slide, but one of the changes here, it shall be unlawful to park, place, store, or otherwise leave any trailer upon any street in a residential area for a period longer than 24 hours. Such vehicle shall be considered to be in violation of this section. So after official notice that the trailer is made, the trailer must be removed from the streets within the city. So, and I hate to talk about my previous law enforcement experience because it irritates people, but in my time with Ogden, we had a city ordinance regarding this, and we called it block hopping. So somebody that lived on a corner, the ordinance would allow for you had to move it once it was tagged to another block in the city. It couldn't remain on the same block. So if you lived on a corner, you just went from the front to the side, from the front to the side, and you just block hopped. You might even move it, a few blocks down and leave it there and hope nobody would steal it. So basically, once we've deemed it a nuisance, it needs to be legally parked or removed from the city. So if we find it somewhere else in the city, then we can take action. So in here, we basically further define what you're allowed to do with it and not do with it. So now let's think about some of the issues that somebody might have. I go camping a lot. I need to park my trailer on the street. This allows for that. It allows for loading and unloading. I'm going to move, so I need to pull a trailer up on the street, and we need to load and unload that trailer. The ordinance, as I've proposed some of the language changes here, would actually allow for that. So, but it also is we're gonna put some time limitations on this loading and unloading. We're not gonna load and unload for 14 days. It needs to be active loading and active unloading. So, also, there's a lot of them that have been parked within 10 feet or at the corner of an intersection, and we basically just give a 30-foot buffer on that. And that's just obviously just for visibility and safety. So there's a handful of benefits here, but really for us on a police department side, it allows for uniformity in enforcement. And I know that Brittany has received several complaints and has worked with a lot of residents here in the city on parking complaints. I have as well. I try to take all of them and explain to them, be patient, be patient. I've got this submitted, and we're just waiting to propose it to the city council.
So I have a question. You're talking about trailers, but what about vehicles?
So we do have currently an ordinance for the vehicles.
Is that the one that says it can't be there for more than 48 hours?
Don't quote me on the time, but yeah, it does give a time limitation. Yes. So, but this is we do have kind of a rampant issue with on-street trailer parking for months at a time, or we're using the street for storage of a camping trailer, an ATV trailer, something like that. So also, there's an aesthetic appeal to this. There is a curb appeal that when people are driving through our city, one, we don't have to worry about visibility issues, children running into the roadway and not being able to see them, but it does add for an aesthetic appeal to the city. Also, I think that if we're able to enforce this, we can then minimize calls for service. If we're able to, on our proactive time, stop out with these vehicles, tag them, educate, and have people move them, we won't have to spend as much time on a dedicated call for service for parking complaints. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Okay, council, any comments, questions?
One concern I may have, but I think we have another ordinance that'll take care of that. I know at least one or two people that have taken out the first 10 feet of their grass and rocked it so they could park their trailer there and not park it on the street. I don't like that either.
Yeah, and that would definitely be for the wording, however we choose to end up wording that. But in the proposed change, some of the verbiage in there was also you can't park it half on, half off the street. We had somebody park a mobile home half on and half off the street because they had such a giant mow strip that it wasn't blocking traffic, it wasn't in the way of anything, but it was a 80-foot long mobile home parked on somebody's frontage. And that was an absolute headache that lasted a couple of weeks while he was trying to sell it. So this just helps give us the ability to actually have people move them or cause and make them to be moved.
You talk about a lot of calls and stuff. Do we have like numbers on how many calls or things like
No,
that?
I could have presented and put that in here. I wouldn't say that it's a number one complaint, but it's frequent.
To be honest with you, Diane, I think over the last 6, even as a city council member, 7 years, I've got a ton of complaints on this. Particularly a group that is down on the lower west side, and it's routine. It seems like when spring comes, I get a barrage of calls on this and emails that says when you're going to try to fix it. And interesting enough, Officer, to your point, the requirement would be is they just have to move it. And I always wondered if, in fact, a police officer had to come by and chalk the ground and chalk the tire. If they move it 2 inches where it's rotated, technically, I guess they get another 48 hours. This is ludicrous, okay? There's certainly challenges in terms of trying to be able to enforce the ordinance, but the fact of the matter is that you could play this as the ordinance reads today any way you want to your benefit, and it puts the police officer spending, as it was suggested to me many times, there should be every day a police officer running through that particular part of the city as part of your normal route. Well, my heavens, we got so many other issues that are happening in Roy City. Going down there to basically monitor these series of trailers out there is just not what we do, and it's certainly not what we can best utilize the officers. But they'll complain, and they'll continue to complain. So we've got tons of them. Interesting enough, Diane, if you'd like to see some, I keep all those complaints that are sent to me. I put a special file, and I can certainly send them to you to see it, but we get a lot of them. I suspect the police officers department would get more than I get.
Yeah, and on our end, and this is anecdotal, but the frustration from the citizen when we show up because somebody's parked their boat trailer with a boat on it in front of the complainant's house. It's public roadway, and the ordinance currently does not allow for us to cause that to be moved.
Yeah.
Is this some? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
How do you address the situation? I don't want to get into too many particulars, but landscape trailer that's hooked to a truck that leaves every day, but it's parked on the road overnight every day. That's his parking place.
Yeah, that's what I think I might know the one that you're talking about. That this would account for that. So, and we're not here to hinder business. We don't want to hinder a business. We don't want to hinder.
But if you're running a business and you have multiple trailers and trucks parked on the side of the road, you probably ought to go find a lot to put your
Right.
stuff.
And we understand too, there's construction, there's things that are going on. We're not citing UPS every time they stop in the middle of the road.
Right.
So that they can go about their business. So we're not really looking to hammer down that way. But yeah, for that type of a situation very specifically, this would allow for us to make them move the vehicle.
All right, this is where I'm going to turn to Andy. Does our current code introduce ambiguity as far as, again, with like what the mayor said, you can turn around and move 2 inches and
It needs to be, I think.
Ironed out.
These suggestions are really good.
Okay.
Because it has been a problem.
Cool. Second question, this will be Councilmember Scadden's like go-to line. Plagiarism is the highest form of flattery. Who are we taking and like copying and pasting our?
So most of it comes out of just my experience
Okay.
there. So that's why it's not as legalese, if
Sure.
you will. That's not as legally written as the ordinance probably needs to
Sure.
be. But it comes from my experience with Ogden City.
Okay.
What are some of the disadvantages you see from making these changes? How will it affect the, maybe we have loud people that are complaining about it, but how will it affect the bigger portion of the population that we don't hear from?
So I really don't think there are a whole lot of negative effects of this. I could see, somebody that just absolutely doesn't want to move their trailer because they think they can park on the roadway and that's their permanent parking spot. I think that it could be a one-off scenario where the actual individual being impacted by needing to not use the street for storage might complain.
Yeah.
But in large and in general, I believe that we're going to see a major positive feedback and a positive impact.
And I agree with that. But I will tell you, Diane, there will be people who will be impacted. They seem to believe their front street is in fact their property where they can do whatever they feel they want to, and they will complain. And it's just part of the process. We certainly got complaints when there was a proposal about changing how often people can leave their vehicles out when the snow's flying. Remember, it used to be that 102 days you couldn't park on the street, even though it only snowed 4 times during that period. Got a lot of complaints. But after a year, 2 years, we've had that in place now, Ross, for how many years now? I don't get any complaints anymore. It seems like it's been pretty well accepted. If it's snowing, don't park on the street. Snowplow people need to get on there. If it's not snowing, you can park out front.
And I think that's where our department the police department's amazing. We have great officers that use excellent discretion.
Yeah.
So again, we're not out there to go, oh, look at this, you're moving and you parked your U-Haul and trailer on the street and we are going to tow it away while you're inside the house loading up the dishwasher. So we have officers that will understand and will apply their discretion in how this is applied.
Great point. Sophie, you had
Hey,
a
my
comment.
question on that is, can code enforcement do this
I was
versus
gonna say, what's the next
our
steps? Because right
police
now it's
officers
in-
for
it's-
everyday?
Yeah, the on-street parking is gonna be the police department, and then beyond that is code enforcement. So when we had the issue of people tearing out their front lot and parking something there, that was more code enforcement. But this is
Okay.
on-street, so it's more
Okay.
traffic.
Let me ask Council if you're okay with this. I got pretty good eyes, but to be honest with you, I did not be able to read everything that was up there. Could we do this? I think there's some really great information here. If we can all get a copy of this presentation, read through it, make sure we understand what the requirements are. Come back to the next meeting, or we can at least inquiry where we go from here. This is not a decision presentation, but certainly is an actionable. But I'd really like to read through this with you, say, hey, there's some really good stuff here, and then use that as a catalyst so we can go something a little more formalized. Because to be honest with you, I like what I see. I definitely like what I hear, to be honest with you. I've got enough battle wounds on this issue over the years. But I think I just need to read it and understand what you're proposing, and then maybe come back with just one more time with some more questions if there's anything comes out, and then we can take an action on this to go ahead and say, yeah, let's go ahead and make this formalized with some recommendations. And to your point, Randy, if there are opportunities for plagiarism or some things we can draw where there has been successes in fixing this, then certainly we can make Andy's job a little bit easier in terms of writing up a new ordinance or a modification of the existing ordinance. But I really would like to really read through this because, to be honest with you, I'm excited. Okay, I'm excited. Council, you okay with that approach?
Yeah.
Yes, look forward to the copy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks
I
for your
appreciate it.
work.
Yeah, please
Thank
get
you.
that to us. Thank you. Well done. Okay. Brittany, I think you can help us with the computer and then help us with the Halloween home decorating contest winners.
So we had 18 entries in total for the Halloween decorating contest. One of them, however, you only received 17. The last entry came in after hours on Friday, so that one was missed. Our top winner ended up being Darren Paskett, 5240 South, 3275 West. Second place ended up going to Michael, hopefully I pronounced this correct, Ames, I believe, 5971 South and 2100 West. And then Greg and Michelle Lakey ended up in third place. Their address is 2946 West, 4390 South. We also had a few honorable mentions. We've got Bradley and Kristen Osborne, Greg Eskew, and then Jason Spar as well. So there were a few honorable mentions, and I've seen several photos circulating on the community page and things like that. So it seemed like the community was pretty excited. Residents were pretty happy that it's something that we did, and they look forward to doing it again. It was pretty well received.
Yeah, well done. First, I guess maybe you can tell us for the record what does the top three win out of this competition?
So we ended up doing gift cards for the top three. First place ended up with a $50 gift card, and then $25 for second and third.
Okay,
Can I make one small suggestion for next year?
please.
Because there was some talk about some of these people had interactive, get out, walk around. That if they're going to submit and they have that it's made apparent.
Outside of that, wow, as I say, we
Yeah, people did a great job. I was surprised at how well people jumped on it and did it.
Yeah.
But there were a couple that said, "Hey, I know you drove by and took pictures, but you didn't get out and walk around." And I'm like, well, you know, there was nobody out there, and I'm not going to go wander around your front yard in the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be good if just to declare if they have anything that's interactive.
Yeah. And great suggestion, Glenda. Thank you.
Okay, other comments on what we witnessed? Okay, let me just make a comment. First, thanks for the recommendation. Glenda, you brought that up, and council supported it. Brittany, thanks for organizing it. Okay, you put it all together rather quickly for us. The map was perfect. That helped us to really kind of navigate, okay, effectively through the city and see all those locations. I, for one, was impressed for such a short notice in terms of how it come together, how people were able to make that happen. It was incredible. I mean, we've seen some incredible displays when we deal with the Christmas lights or holiday lights event. This one is equal to that, in some cases maybe even a little better, because it was so well taken. And I assume council will continue doing the same thing next year?
Yeah, I'd like to make it a yearly event. I guess I do have one other question, because I know there were a few other houses in the city that rivaled with the rest of them, but they didn't submit their name. Can a neighbor submit it for them? Or do they have to be willing and able?
They would have to give their consent to have their address listed publicly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Someone could make
Because I know a
motion,
couple of
put
people that do a
their
really good
address.
job, but they
Yeah.
never submit for Christmas or for Halloween.
Since
So.
it
Yeah.
becomes a part of public record, it's ideal if they enter themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great answer. Great question. Great answer. Certainly, we would encourage people, if they got a neighbor, to have those, because we've seen those. This particular contest went to all parts of Roy City, and as a result of that, we've seen some great displays along that path. And so, again, well done. Just a nice. If people took advantage and went out and looked, as was provided to them to do so, it was a great treat for people to celebrate the season with as much decorations taking place. So it was a great effort. Again, thank you for all. Wonderful thing. Glad. Can I make the assumption, Brittany, that we've already sent those gift cards out?
Yes, I have one on my desk. One asked that it be mailed, and then the other resident came and picked one up
Okay.
today. So I let them know that if they didn't have a chance to stop by the end of the week, it would be in the mail.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you again. I think that was wonderful. Okay. Any other comments on that before we move to some action items? Okay. Thanks, council. We do have an action item. I think, Chief Golden, you're going to help us on Resolution 22-19.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. This is actually, should have been for another 20 years. We just do an annual review, but because the Air Force instruction changed this year, it's required that they actually go through this process. It'll still be pushed out every 5 years and just reviewed annually, and if anything needs to be done, we'll make those changes. But the resolution 2219 is just an automatic aid agreement, which changes it from mutual aid to automatic aid agreement between Roy City and Hill Air Force Base for fire and emergency services. From the mutual aid to the automatic aid, the verbiage that really stands out or should stand out to you in the agreement, or there's just 4 of them. And it's just the mutual to the automatic aid, and it's their Station 2 resources to include a battalion chief, a 4-man engine company will respond whenever they're attached to our stack or to our dispatch code. So any reported structural fires, hazardous materials, tech rescues, anything like that where they get added to any of those type of things, they'll automatically respond to us.
So do we respond up onto Hill Air Force Base? I know
when-
I've seen their stuff come down,
Yeah.
but do we go up?
When they request us. Right now, the only thing that we have that we go up to is medical for a paramedic. But now they have paramedics in both the main station and Station 2 area, so we haven't responded up there to them for quite some
But
time.
I've seen their trucks in our city doing stuff, so.
They come out quite often, so that,
Along that same line, Chief, help me, there's, when we talk about Hill Air Force Base, are we talking about Falcon Hill being inclusive into that Hill Air Force Base footprint, or are we talking to where the fence line is today? Because I just need to understand the relationship between our agreements we have with the Roy Innovation Center.
Yeah, with the Roy Innovation Center, we have the interlocal agreement where we charge them for the services. This would be behind the gate.
So it's going to be everything behind the gate.
yeah, their resources do not respond to the Innovation Center or Falcon Hill. That's either North Davis or us.
Okay.
And we have those agreements with those areas to take care of that. For
Okay.
them, so.
But
So-
do they come to those areas for backup?
If they're requested to. So normally all we're doing right now is just going on automatic alarms and some medical calls, so they're not supporting anything. Report of fire, they'd absolutely be there, so. So the second one is just as important to the Air Force, and that's that AFFF, or the aqueous film forming foam. And the basically, and the use of any AFFF, so if it's an emergency, just like the crash that we had, they used AFFF on it. So that's just known. If they come out and requested for that and we ask them for foam, it will be used, and there's an indemnification clause in there both for us and for them. And that clause is important that they actually have that in there for us. The next 2 updates are the making sure that we have radio interoperability between the 2. And right now, they have access to our frequency, but yet we don't have access to theirs because of the encryption that they have. So they have access to, they have a radio dual band, they can listen to anything whenever dispatched for our calls. And the other one is when they respond out, and it's similar to what we do as well. When we go out, one of our persons are attached to our crew, and they act as a safety officer for our personnel. That's written into their Air Force instruction, that it's mandated that they have to have a person from that organization assigned as a safety officer. So just for example, the last fire that we had, the electrical fire, the power pole fire, transformer, that fire, they were assigned safety officer for the whole incident, and their crew were right there with them, so they were able to manage the crew as a safety officer. So very common that their battalion chief would get that assignment when they roll on the scene, and that's how we have it built into our agreement to use them that way. So those are the 4 big changes that we have.
That brings up an interesting point. So just for clarification, Chief, help us. If I understood what you just indicated, if they roll into Roy City, then what is their jurisdiction in terms of controlling the site or the scene from their asset point of view? Do they have responsibility now for control over that event, or do you still retain that?
Not the event. And they do not do that because that federal and local differences that we have. They will not assume command of anything within our jurisdiction.
Okay.
They will, if they were to happen to be first on scene, they would go through the process and then pass that command on to the next incoming officer.
But for you to respond on base, they do have command responsibility for events that occur on base.
That's correct. And then we would also, when anyone that goes up there, we would have the same safety responsibilities for our personnel, so.
Okay. And Council, I don't want to take too far away, but that AFF, that AFFF, that one's a tough one. I know the Air Force was attempting to try to get away from that because of the, whether it be carcinogens or whatever may be involved with that particular type. And there's always been an issue about that particular type of chemical that's involved with that in terms of it saturating the water, or saturating the land that may even get into the water stream. I guess maybe just help us understand that. If they respond, are they going to be using that AFFF?
If they get called to an aircraft incident or anything like that, and we get asked them for use of foam, they would use foam. But then we would be responsible to clean it up just like anything else.
Yeah. Okay. And they haven't found a replacement yet for them to move away from the AFFF?
No, what they changed it out with turned out to be just as bad as the stuff that they use.
The other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I share that with you because one of the challenges they have, not so much on our side of the base, but I think up by the flight line up there, there has been some discussion about whether or not some of that may have got into the soil, may have created some other challenges for out there in terms of environmental cleanup. And so we've not had that problem on this side, but certainly up there by the runway it would be an issue, either by practicing or whether or not there's real incidents, much like they had just recently with an F-35 that went down. I assume that the AFFA would have basically probably been used to put out that fire.
It was.
Yeah. Cleanup. Yeah. And then I guess my last comment would be is Roy City side sits closer to the MAMS 2 facility out there. If you're responding to an incident out there that deals with the munitions they store out there, do we have our people get trained? Is there some guidance in terms of how we handle munitions, those munitions storage areas?
Part of this F-35 is they also have determined that they have not been training folks outside the fence like they should on hazards and stuff like that. So they're going to discuss that next week at a after-action report and then come up with a plan to get that information out to us. Far as our folks go, I've provided 2 different training sessions to them to talk specifically about foam, aircraft, and other munitions incidents, at least what I can talk to them about. So mostly it's just safety, more hazardous awareness, hazardous material awareness at that level type of a response. So
okay. Okay. Council, any comments, any questions relative to Resolution 22-19?
Make a motion, we approve it.
Okay, I have a motion then to approve Resolution 22-19, Hill Air Force Base Automatic Aid Agreement. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Diane, thank you. This is a roll call vote. Brittany?
Councilmember Scadden.
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Paul.
Aye.
Councilmember Sophie Paul.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes. Thank you, Council. Thanks, Chief. Okay, we have Resolution 22-20, approval of the Roy City Department bailiff job description. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we're about to get our bailiff positions actually ready to announce for hiring. As you're aware, a couple years ago, the City Council approved 2 bailiff positions. They've been funded and they haven't been utilized because of COVID. Judge Nelson has informed me we will be back to in-person court in January. We've submitted the job description to you for approval so that we can start the hiring process and get them trained so that they're ready to go by the new year.
So I have a question then in regards to just some of the qualifications. And one of them is when it talks about a working knowledge of Roy and its street systems, I was just wondering why that was put in there for the street systems.
Because if they're going to be asked to go out and arrest folks on warrants or fugitives, they need to know where they're at. They need to be able to tell us on the radio where they're at. They're going to have to sign out on the call. They're going to have to be able to find the location of these people with warrants based on the address on the warrant.
And is that something that you like test for, or you just work with them? I was just wondering how that skill was assessed.
So that would be part of the training process.
I see. Okay, thank you.
That's an interesting point. Let me ask you, Chief. Isn't in the past, when they're doing bench warrants, isn't that a sheriff's department responsibility?
So the sheriff's office does have the ability to serve warrants countywide. We typically will just go after suspects who have warrants from our court.
Just from our
So
court?
the deputies from the county, their priority would be the Weber Justice Court warrants. Our priority would be the Roy Justice Court warrants.
Okay, okay.
And so in regards to these essential functions, these aren't things they need to come into the position with. These are things they can be trained on then. It's not necessarily a qualification to apply.
No, the qualification would be to apply is they have to, at a minimum, be a special functions officer certified by the state of Utah. That would be the bare minimum. But as far as their functions, they can be trained here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay, then do I have a motion then to approve Resolution 22-20 approving the Roy City Police Department bailiff job description?
Motion to approve Resolution 22-20.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sophie. Okay, this is a roll call vote. Brittany?
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Sophie Paul,
Aye.
Councilmember Scadden,
Aye.
Councilmember Joe Paul.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Resolution 22-20 approved. Thanks, Chief.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we do have a couple of discussion items. Let's walk through those, council. Red curb markings, specifically talking about parking restrictions on Midland Drive west of the Bridge Elementary. Matt, you and I are going to talk this one, but go ahead and start if you'd like.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, thank you. So we've been a little bit back and forth on this one with down on Midland Drive. As you know, we do have a policy that they are submit an application for the red curb, then we'll review it administratively to assess the value. We have not seen an application, but we've had a lot of conversation with the administration down at the school in regards to this. We've been a little bit back and forth. Once we paint that, it is not able to be unpainted, and so we want to make sure we do it right the first time. Initially, we wanted to do it, not the city, but they wanted to do it, and then they kind of held off because of some construction down with the bridge. And then the principal circled back around and requested that it get painted about a week ago. We've had other conversations about putting signs up in the area of just saying not a pickup zone, not a drop-off zone. Some of their concern is that the children are running across the street from the school to be picked up by the parents on the other side. From a staffing perspective, talking to Chief Gwen today in our staff meeting, some of the concerns about marking it red would make people do a U-turn in that street, causing other hazards. When you're doing a U-turn maneuver and a kid is running across the street, it might heighten the probability of actually hitting a student. So there's that concern. We have done in the past a traffic study to see a count study to see how many students are actually crossing the street to go down for the safe sidewalk. They counted 3 individuals that were living and walking that area, so it doesn't necessarily meet that need either for a crosswalk there with a cross guard. We could put a crosswalk there, but not staff it with a cross guard. But that also, might cause other problems too. So we just wanted to have an overall conversation about the best way forward on this.
Well, I think it's a good point. Let me ask, just to add to that, is there an application form, or is it just simply a letter, or is it a email that triggers the
There is
request?
an application form,
Okay, can you?
and I can send it over.
Yeah, would you? Because I looked at I pulled the policy, and the policy that was approved didn't necessarily show an application form.
Okay.
That was then.
yeah.
It's not to say there couldn't have been one developed after the policy was approved, but if there is an application form, then I think anytime we get these requests, the policy's already approved. to me, I think what it would be is just simply says, fill out the application, run it through the system, let Public Works and the police department determine whether or not it has validity. If it does, then the city can approve it or not. But it was unclear in terms of where the application form that you're indicating. So if you can kind of point to that, I certainly would recommend that we just have anyone, including the principal of the school, just to fill out the application.
Okay, I will send that actually over right now.
Yeah,
To you, and then.
yeah,
do you want me to
I'd send it to
her in the
her.
morning?
You've got her. I'd send it down to Lonnie.
Yep. I will.
And just say, please fill out the application, and we'll consider your application through the normal process. Council, you okay with that approach?
Yeah.
Because I think what we don't know in terms of all the nuances of it, and it was really because we've seen these requests come through, we just don't know everything to ask. But Public Works and the police department would know in terms of the process defined in the policy. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're looking in terms of making sure providing public safety issues, and then make a recommendation based on that. And I think that's defendable, okay, as long as it's consistent.
Can I just ask Chief Gwynn a couple of his comments and thoughts about it? So, for example, you hear that people will, even if it's painted red, people will still just park there anyway, and then does that make it more difficult to police? And then maybe what your general idea is painting red versus considering the signage, in which you think might be better if something, I know you'll go into more detail, but just for some information.
Yeah, so my initial concerns were a couple of things. One, people are going to park there whether the curb's red or not, because they're not likely to be there long enough for a police officer to come by and ask them to move. And secondly, if you paint one side of the curb, you're going to have traffic entering one direction, and to avoid parking on that side, they're going to start making U-turns. And they're just going to make U-turns whenever they want on that road. And they're not going to be looking for necessarily children or vehicles behind them. They're not going to be checking their blind spots. They're going to actually, maybe block traffic while they're making their U-turn or their 50-point turn or whatever it takes to turn around. And so I don't know that we're going to be solving a problem as opposed to creating a bigger problem. And so those are my concerns initially. Obviously, we'll continue to look at, but those are my initial concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the original conversation when we had this a few months ago was more along the lines is that on the west side of the Midland Drive, the parents, it appears, pulls up, drops their kids off, they get on that sidewalk that's on the side, and then they dash across the street to go to school. The original strategy, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, the original strategy of that school was going to be a drop-off school. Parents are expected to drive into there, take the circle, drop their children off inside the school boundaries, and then exit. I think that was the original plan. That's not necessarily how it's working. So it's a tough one. I think being Public Works and the police department, you guys can figure out what makes good sense, and just simply provide feedback on the application, whether or not it's going to go or not. Okay, if you can see some options, I think they requested, would you be willing to put a crossing lane there, maybe post some signs up that says children will cross on that. Certainly that could be considered. I don't know if it, based on your comment, there's only 3 or 4 children that use it, that it warrants any type of a crossing guard, but certainly you might consider if they're going to drop their children off, that there at least some type of a crossing lane there with some signs. But if that doesn't seem viable, then make that assessment. I mean,
To kind of clarify that, I think when the assessment was made to count the children, it was children walking home, not necessarily children walking across the street.
Yeah.
I think the problem is a bigger problem than 3 or 4 kids crossing the street to get into their parents' car.
Yeah, the original strategy for the crosswalks and crossing guards was children walking to school. That didn't seem to be a big problem.
Yeah.
This particular conversation was more about parents dropping off on the west side, children walking behind a car, in front of a car, and walking into the street.
Correct.
And it's an issue. Let's see what you come up with. Would you mind, once the application is determined, if you might just give us some feedback on what the decision is?
Yep.
Perfect. Any other comments, questions, council, on that? Okay. Brittany, I think you're going to talk to us about challenge coins.
Yes, so we had created kind of the mock-up challenge coin that you all have seen. I've gotten some kind of rough pricing quotes from 3 different companies. We need to know, in order proceed if you definitely, if it's something that council definitely wants to do, and then how many do you want to order? That will vary in price. And then if there's also kind of a mold that the company will have to do, that plays into the pricing as well. So we are looking, if we order less than 300, we're looking between $5.50 and $7.50 per coin. That drops dramatically to about $1 to $1.50 per coin if we're doing 300 plus. One of the coins also does have a mold charge if you do less than 300 coins, so that's kind of a factor as well. But in order to proceed, we would need to know if it's definitely something council wants to do, and then how many are we looking at ordering.
Okay, comments, council?
Can I clarify, when you say if it's over 300, does that mean the price drops $1 is what you were saying about?
So it,
Or
yes.
it's about?
Yeah, so per coin, it would drop down
About.
$1 to
Okay,
$1.50
thank you.
per coin.
I'd say order at least 300.
Yeah, 350.
301?
Yeah, 301, 305.
Works for me.
So if you go
Where'd
with
that come from?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I feel like we're on the Price is Right or something, so that's where I was going with it.
Okay.
If
That's
you
right.
order 300 coins, or just over 300, we're looking between $1,300 and $1,500.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more comments about that, council? Now, don't lose sight of what the intent. You're representing the interest of Roy as council members, certainly staff, and this would be more of a recognition kind of event. You're going to see great suggestions that are going to come out. They're going to be part of that, and here's an opportunity to simply let them know that what their contribution and what they're doing is very important to Roy City. In any fashion or form that you find yourself in. And we find ourselves in lots of different venues where that happens. And so this is an opportunity to give them something showing your appreciation for the support that they're providing to the city. So I don't think there's going to be much in terms of defining how they will be used. That certainly will come if there seems to be problems with it. But at this moment, it's pretty open. The only decision you have to make is you still want to go with it? And second, how many you want, if you do?
I don't know personally that I find those to be of great value. I know that there are other people that use them a lot, and so I guess it's not something that I would necessarily go for, but if it were done, I just want to make sure they weren't dated so they could be used, for the next
Indefinitely.
57 years.
Not a year or an official
Other
date.
nebulous number.
Yep.
57 years. specific.
Right, so, yeah, there's my,
Are we okay to proceed?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Go ahead and proceed then. I would definitely go with I heard a 301, 305, a 3.5. Give us a number here which you want us for Brittany to go out on.
And should we just set a budget? I mean, would that be? I don't know.
I say buy $1,500 worth.
Yeah.
Okay.
$1,500 worth? Okay.
I don't know. Okay. Well, there could
I'm
be
not
a,
gonna say-
there
yeah.
could be a half of a coin in there.
Well,
I think if you basically say just a round number like 320, 350, that makes it much easier on Brittany to work this in
325.
your behalf. So are we okay
so
with
it's
320?
round. 326, because that can be divided evenly. Sorry, I don't care.
320.
320.
Okay.
320.
Brittany,
Just
can you
don't
help
listen
us
to
with
me.
320?
Fuck.
Thank you.
Much, Randy.
I know.
We're trying to get out of here.
I know.
I'll get you close to there.
Beautiful.
Thank you. That was interesting conversation. Okay. Randy, you're going to help us with 5600 South, I-15, Roy City sign. What's
Yeah,
your
so to
thoughts on
say,
that?
given what we're taking and seeing with the 5600 South project, and also coming across, I think it was the last council meeting where we talked about just kind of the broad disrepair. I mean, when you look at the 5600 South sign, there's no upkeep happening on it. We are going to completely and totally revamp that entire area. So my thought process, with the support of Public Works, was to remove that, and then once the 5600 South project actually finalizes, seeing if we can't get, because again, when you come off of that on-ramp, unless you look back, you're not seeing that actual sign. And so it's not like very well placed. And so my thought process was like where Wells Fargo actually is, and with them taking that, if we could, as part of maybe some of our negotiations with UDOT, see if we can't take and secure a spot there on the corner. I think from a long-term perspective, without some type of water feature as well, it would be a better location for us from a long-term perspective. So that's kind of just the genesis, and so I just wanted to bring that up as a discussion item.
Well, let me make sure we got clarification exactly when you say what sign. You're not talking about a freeway sign. What you're really talking about is the waterfall that
It's right
welcomes
outside of
people
So
to Roy
Delicious,
City.
correct? Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's the waterfalls, that emblem or that symbol there. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Council comments?
Anybody against it?
No, I agree with it. I think
Okay.
without a water feature, and to make it
it's just
so
an
that you can
eyesore.
see it, there's a lot of beautiful designs out there. I think we can find something that looks good right there.
Okay.
I honestly, I don't know at this moment if the development that I have seen goes to the east, or goes to the north side of 5600 at that location, which means is we can certainly, the council, we could have it removed if that's the direction. But whether you want to replace it with something else at that location or somewhere else, we can certainly make a decision with that. But I don't believe UDOT is going to have any development on that side. All the development I've seen in plans show everything south of there.
I probably wouldn't put it back there too. I would probably move it to 56 and 19.
Yeah, on 1900 is a
So
little
when
more
you're,
appropriate.
when
yeah.
you're actually
coming
setting in
off,
the intersection, no matter how you do it, you can see it.
Yeah.
So do we leave it there until that happens, or do we? What's your thoughts on that? Oh,
It's on
okay.
us, right? Because
I say,
yeah, let's
Okay. They can take care of the property.
correct.
Right. And
Yeah.
do we do maintenance on it, or the weeding and stuff like
Relative.
that? But they don't do anything.
that's a loose
Okay.
term.
Yeah, that's up to interpretation. That's kind of like I said, it's not being well maintained, and that's why I'm more. If we're not going to
Get rid
maintain
of
it,
it.
let's get rid of it because it's just a eyesore in general.
Well, Ross, you had your team out there knocking down the weeds because I seen your trucks sitting out there as you're doing that. And so I think much like the other signs we have maybe sitting on UDOT property, Roy City has a responsibility to maintain it, even though it's on Roy City property. But if the intent would be is to simply said, let's just take it out for now and then see what might be something
Address
in
it
the
later on.
future after the 5600 widening project is completed.
Yeah.
Certainly, that's something that could be done. But we just need the council, for the most part, the majority of you to agree to that, to move in that direction.
Diane, what are your
How
thoughts?
much would that cost, or how many man hours would that take to be taking it out?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And right now, we don't see it as a benefit because people can't tell they're entering Roy anyway because of its location. Right.
Yeah.
Thoughts, council?
86 it,
Take it out.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
Ready, Diane?
Sure somebody don't need community service hours or something?
Ask the police chief. Diane? Thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think eventually it's going to be gone. A water feature is not something that necessarily is an appropriate, considered, popular at this point in time. I don't know if it does any benefit until the project, 5600 project gets done. And I think eventually it's going to go. So I guess timing is going to be, what timing you decide works, but.
Okay. I'm sensing everybody agrees. Matt, my recommendation would be is when it's convenient, when you have a slow period, if you ever have a slow period, Ross, I guess, just go ahead and remove it.
Let me know
Is-
when you're going to do it so I can take a sledgehammer to it.
Now,
Is
the
there a
art-
way to keep part of the sign just so there is at least some entrance into Roy at, for a period of time? Because we're not going to finish that project for, what, 3 years?
5 years.
Yeah, Matt and I had that conversation. It's going to be, it could be 3, maybe 4 years before it's completed.
Because I think
Yes.
there's some merit to having some signage there that you're entering Roy, because we don't have any freeway signs that even say, this is the exit to Roy. It says
You do-
5600 south. I mean, you know, when you're getting right off there.
You do coming from the north, because it says this exit is in fact going into Roy, but there's nothing currently coming in from the south that says you're coming into Roy.
So for 4 years, we won't have any signage there. And so that's a little concern for me, just because when people are coming to Roy, they have a hard enough time, especially when they're coming from the south. You know, I think, you know, we've heard of difficulties. People aren't really sure they're turning into Roy. You have several there. So I don't know if it's worth taking out part of it, so you can at least leave some Roy signage, or if it's worth just waiting. I know that keeping it maintained is a concern, but
Well, I think Roy City can help as we go through the interstate program to ensure that there's some reference on cars coming from the south heading north, that they'll know they're exiting into Roy. We can certainly help because they got to put all new signage up for there. But
that would be good. That'd be
that would
very
help,
good.
and there's already stuff on the north side. We'll work that piece of it. But your point would be is, could we put something in the interim if Ross goes and removes that to say that you've just now exited the freeway and you're now in Roy? I'll leave that at your judgment, whether you want to use that little sign that used to be on the north end that I think we removed, that I think you may have in storage sitting down there, and you can stick that in the ground, or whether or not we need to do that. Maybe at this moment, just look at your options, Matt, Ross, see what might be there. But the emphasis of this would be is to simply remove at your convenience, okay, the existing waterfall sign that sits there. I think that's it. Now, having said that, you also realize we have a waterfall sign sitting on the entrance coming in from Riverdale,
I thought we
or
converted
or
that.
a similar sign may not have the waterfall.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
thought we converted that, didn't we?
Is that
Or no, I'm thinking of the Harmon sign, not the one. That, yeah. It's just the
it's a
sign.
sign?
Yeah.
No problems with that? I mean, if he's in the sign removal business, we'd probably got to make sure we have some clear direction. We're all okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, then it sounds just like the waterfall right there at the 56 intersection with the I-15. Okay, thank you. Just let us know when you do that. Okay, Ross, just send us, or Matt, send us a note. It's done. Okay, thank you. Winterization of the complex. Matt, I think you and Ross and Travis will talk this.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I know that you're all aware of this, but we felt like it would only be appropriate for people listening in on the meeting from, online or in the crowd here today, to know that Public Works did find a heater for down there. It was $900 that they replaced the pump circulating the water with the heater. So the concern that we've had in the past about heating the facility in the basement and freezing up, Public Works has done a great job to help that out, so we can maintain the complex during the winter months. Also, as part of this discussion, I just wanted to make everybody aware that there's a meeting scheduled for this Thursday with the engineer and our Public Works team to go out there and review the work that has been done. The next point in the process is after Thursday is to, if everything looks great, is to send that over to Weber County to take a look at that, the Weber County Health Department. So they have to approve it before we send that RFP out. But just wanted to give you a little update of where we are in that process.
So I have a question. Travis, you may know this. When can we put in for ramp grants? Because I've been told by a couple of people from Weber County that there is a grundle of money sitting in the ramp grant fund.
It's like January 13th. It's not the 13th.
So, I mean, we're not that far out to be able to put in for a grant for ramp for that. I would highly recommend we jump on that for as much as we can get out of it.
all of our ramp grant ideas.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about that in the manager's minutes as well.
Okay. Okay, anything else, council? I know we're speculating, Ross, so when do you believe the engineer will have a design for us to, that you can go out on RFP? Are we at that point, all we need is Weber County to approve?
Tell me the plans, and then we're gonna decide, then he'll finish them up, then we'll send it to Weaver County for their approval, and then we'll put it on RFP.
Then you can put an RFP out after Weber County works it, okay.
Still talking close to January before everything, we're ready to put it out.
Okay. That obviously is an important issue. I think we just need as often as we can, at least maybe once a month, we just get an update of where we are on that process, if you can help us with that. Okay. Council, anything else on the winterization of the complex? Okay. Hearing none, we have the city managers and council report. Matt?
Yeah, first thing I'd want to report on is the RFP is closing this Friday for the SAP, the station area plan. Next Wednesday, there'll be a meeting with Steve Parkinson from our team, Wasatch Front Regional Council, and UTA to select and review next week for who they want to proceed with that contract. Next is, right now, about a year ago, we entered into a contract with a private company doing sweeping for the city. They are currently going through our city, so you'll be seeing the street sweeper. They do that in the spring and the fall, so they're currently doing that. I did speak with the maintenance superintendent over at Weber School District yesterday. They have on schedule for November 28th to remove some of the trees that we've discussed at Sandridge Park. They have a bunch of trees over by the football stadium as well, and then they're moving over to Sandridge Park on the 28th. So if you hear anything from residents, I know that's been a concern. Don't forget, tree lighting ceremony, November 28th from 4:30 to 7 p.m.
November 20 what?
Whoops,
21st.
21st.
Okay, all right. Just one week earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're good.
Yep, the 21st. We wanted to have on the agenda, there's a couple of follow-up items that we wanted to have. One was with the pickleball courts. We have been waiting for Weber County ramp folks for a phone call back, but I wanted to give you an update and something to think about. We'll have this on another agenda, though. But they said that we would be able to separate that project and tame it down, and then we're also able to resubmit for the next portion of that project. Not saying that we'll get it, let's say we have 8 courts, we go down to 4 courts that we could resubmit next year for a ramp grant for the remaining other portion. They've had a lot of people this last year come in way over budget. I think that's a very common problem that people are having. And then also we have talked to the contractor, and they would be okay with taking down the project to 4 courts rather than 8 courts or whatever we decide. But we can't just think that if it's $600,000 and we do 4, it's going to be $300,000. It's going to be proportionate. He'd have to reevaluate that cost.
Well, it's probably not
It is a
ideal
possibility.
to do that in the middle of the winter. I'd almost recommend resubmit and see if we can't get some more money and just
You can do an extension.
keep it a course of action
Okay.
and get what we originally planned for and see if we can get some more money out of them.
We could do,
Did they say if there was a time limit on when we'd have to use that money?
but we can always follow an extension, file an extension on that. So sooner than later is ideal, but we can file an extension on it.
I think what you're referring to would be as the one that we were awarded,
Correct, yeah.
asking for some change in terms of how we work that.
Uh-huh.
Because the ones that we're working on right now are going to be the ones that's going to be awarded next year, and we have deadlines by which those grant application process has to flow. So I think to your point, if you want to modify the existing one, we can certainly look at, that piece of it. But if we want to do this and split this into 2, then we really want to make sure that a ramp grant application going into next year, that we file that in this process.
I would imagine it'll probably cost significantly more to break the 2 projects up because it's going to be cheaper to do it all at once while they're there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I would rather try to mod it and submit for a change.
It just where would the money come from? If it doesn't come out of next year's money, the money that's been obligated, that's been approved for us has already been planned. So we would either they have some fallout money that maybe might be available, or maybe it's a question you have to ask. You simply take the money they've already authorized for this year and then add an extension or additional money from next year, and then get that award in the fall next year. But just so you understand, we won't get an announcement probably until 4 or 5, 6, 8 months from now, whenever they make the public announcements.
Usually, March, I think it goes to the planning commission around that time, is when they'll announce if you got the ramp grant or not.
Well, I don't think we're gonna start building it before then.
The challenge is, the mayor was saying, the ramp would tell you they're not going to guarantee any potential money for any future project. So,
I don't know if you want to ask.
I think, and I'll recheck this, I think they would recommend that we would build the scope down version and resubmit for what we would call a phase 2 at that point in time. I'll check that out and report back to Matt.
At least you got the money you got approved already now, and so if that means you can only do a portion of those based on the money you provided, are you willing to go ahead and allow the portion to be done, and then consider any expansion about that, or
Well, our budget's pretty tight, and so that means we
know.
have to match it coming up. And
there's a
so-
match to that, yeah.
The other thing that's in play is we have to be prepared for any sort of matches.
I would strongly recommend, go with what you got. You've got money. How much will that buy you? And then get the courts placed based on the amount of money that's been funded. At least you'll have that locked down. And then if the decision is going forward is you want to enhance that or add to that, then certainly we can request an addition to have some widening or some additional courts be put in the next round. Now, that's my recommendation. Council, you need to make that decision.
Well, our current budget that needs to be used, that we get from new building and stuff was pretty small, and, maybe we'll have a plethora of building and we'll have some more money that's specifically assigned to that, but right now, things are pretty tight. We, went through a limited tax increase and it still wasn't covering everything we needed, so I think we should be very cautious in matching.
Other comments?
Like I stated, we'll have that on another city council meeting as well.
Okay.
So we'll have a final decision there.
Okay.
Another thing that we're going to be talking about later, I wanted to just give you an update. The finance team in the accounting department, they've been doing a financial audit. And so that's going to be coming up here quickly with the financial reports for the end of the year. And then also we'll have a discussion on the vehicle rotations. I have the figures for that if anybody wants to come in and talk to me about it, but we'll also have that in our next city council meeting. And then also something else that we're working through administratively is actually with Riverdale City. There's a small portion on our side, on the west side of the freeway, that is actually Riverdale. There's about 16 homes right there. You come off of Riverdale Road and it's right there. ARS is right there as well. The water line from Riverdale City over to Royce City started leaking, and the state had them shut that down. So because they did not want, and we don't want them to live without water, we are allowing them to hook to our water system just through our fire hydrants until we can reach an agreement. So either we have to do interlocal, we have to do annexation, or allow them to rebuild that pipeline underneath the freeway, which could be costly to them. But I just wanted to make you aware. We'll work that with Riverdale City to see what we come up with. That's also in the works. And that's it.
Okay. Council, any other things you'd like to bring up before I make comments?
Over the last few months, I've had several phone calls in regards to the public comment period. It used to be towards the end, and so that was beneficial because people could comment about things that had gone on, but they weren't able to comment on things coming up. And so now we still have that same dichotomy, the challenge. And I don't know if it's possible, but some things that are discussed as we go along, people say, we would really like to be able to have an opportunity to make our comments on things that have been discussed through the meeting. I don't know if it's possible to have an optional public comment at both times, because citizen involvement is certainly what we're looking for, and you're noted for including citizens exceptionally. So that's just something I was wondering if we could consider.
Actually, I think that's a reasonable request. It certainly would answer a lot of people's concerns if they hear something and they're excited about it, or they have comments about it, give them an opportunity to voice. Let me and Matt work it. It's certainly, we can do that, and I think that's easy to do. And if it helps satisfy the needs of the residents where they feel like they get more engaged in it, I like that. Okay? Okay, good comment. Anything else, council? Please.
I do have a couple things today. So this one's just a reminder, but there's the annual senior dinner and show coming up at Roy High, and it's Wednesday, November 16th. And so I could have mentioned it next council meeting, but it would have been the day after. So I wanted to give a heads up to everyone who was wanting to go. And it's Oklahoma this year. It's from 5 to 6 in the Roy High School lunchroom. So that's when the dinner is. And then right after that would be the play. So yeah, that's just a heads up. And then also, I was just wondering if this is more for Sophie, but, or I guess, what should I call you? Council member Paul. Yeah. Has there been any applications submitted for youth council?
No.
Okay.
I've met with several of the principals of the schools, a couple of the counselors, a couple student gov teachers, and no, there has not. There's been several questions, and I've got students asking questions, but nobody has physically taken an application, to my knowledge, and filled it out. I thought about doing it again probably the first of the year.
Okay. Yeah.
And then again right at when you're doing your elections for next year, and maybe given options for that again. But no, I was little surprised about the no participation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
People fired up.
Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking, because we can maybe put stuff around the school just for people to know about it. I think that could be a.
What if
So
you
I
did,
was thinking after in January.
Yeah, or what if you did something like a council to council, right? Because you're already an elected official for the school, and then turning it around and having us as council members come into your student gov class that is specifically for council, and we do maybe like once a quarter, and we basically just hear what you guys are having or seeing in the community that you guys feel need to be addressed as students.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. We actually started this year doing it's all the presidents of the clubs. They have a meeting once a month, and we do it with the principal.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we all will share concerns and from all aspects of the school. And I think it would be good if you guys could come to that, but it is really early in the morning. It's not
I'm an early morning person.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, you guys probably won't think it's early. I think it's early. It's at 7:15.
Oh,
but
I'm halfway through my day by that time. You're fine.
Okay, cool.
Just
It's actually
recognize that anytime three of you get into the same room, there's some rules, okay?
right.
Yeah,
okay.
that's why I'm saying we'd probably want to do like a coordinated effort.
Right.
Well, there's multiple schools, so it's not just
Exactly.
one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it would have to
Well,
be a
and I'm
tag
sa-
team.
Yeah, and I'm saying we'd probably want to do it at least at the high school and then the 2 junior high levels. And then also Bridge goes up to what age? Bridge Elementary, so they only go to 6th grade.
In 6th grade,
Yeah.
they're younger.
Yeah.
So I would go Quest. There's a few of the others. I would start with the 2 junior highs.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the high school.
Yeah, well, that was just
Just
kind of
thinking out
something I
loud.
was wondering about, because on the Roy City Youth Instagram, there was a request to do more service projects. And so I was just thinking if maybe we had a youth council kind of board that could head up one for the holidays. But also, since we don't have that yet, I was thinking that I could just advertise something. And I don't really know if there's any suggestions of needs that we could do around the city. I don't know. I just know that since the holidays are coming up, I know a lot of people are willing to do service or more inclined to, and that could be good time to take advantage of it, especially like, I mean, I'm filling out college applications and they want you to show that you're involved with the community. So maybe like for seniors or just older kids, like even at the junior high levels, I don't know.
Check
Just a
on that
thought.
Just Serve. They have a lot of options right there, and that's excellent. And then in regards to the senior dinner and play, where would those seniors be able to pick up the tickets or be able to sign up for that?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't know.
That's Brittany.
I think okay.
So they are available at the high school, and then they are going to be over at the Hope Center this week, so they can pick them up at the Hope Center as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. You know more than me, and I brought it up. So, anyways.
Brittany knows it all.
Yeah, true. So yeah, I don't know if there's Just Serve. I would look at that totally, but I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that people were commenting and wanting more service projects. So, if there's anything ever, the youth could be a good place to go.
Perfect.
Okay. Other comments? Thank you. Okay, I just got a couple before we go for adjournment. Let me share with you, it was mentioned last meeting about the Bar D Wranglers coming. I have actually went to their website looking to see when they're coming. Closest I could figure out is Colorado. So if you can get some information for us on that we just need to kind of plan for that when they're coming into Roy High. That would be very helpful, so we can plan that on our calendar.
I have, you have it?
Oh, yeah, I have it December 9th at 7 p.m.
Okay, so December 9th, 7 p.m. Perfect.
And you can purchase tickets at roy.wsd.net.
Okay.
Right at the top, actually. I think they just put it there.
So are they just coming one night?
Yes, but then the next day, there's Ryan Shoup and the Rubber Band.
Oh, nice.
So at
Okay.
least it's on Roy, I think.
If you put that on your calendars, those are great events, and we'll go from there. Also, council, a little competing that's going to take place with the senior dinner and play. That's the same night that they're holding the Wasatch Front, or excuse me, what they call the 2020 Wasatch Choice Workshop that's in South Ogden. This is the one where they're going to set the planning for
The master transportation.
transportation, variety of different projects is going to take place that now becomes part of their plan. We're talking about more of a regional plan. I've attended these, Joe. I think you've attended these before. I will just indicate to you, two conflicting. If there certainly is a preference that you would like to go to the senior dinner and play, please let Matt or I know so we kind of know where the representation will be there. But I will tell you, I really need to be. I've been working with Clinton. I really need to be at that Wasatch Choice workshop that's going to be in South Ogden. And so look at your schedules. I believe a couple of you are going to be out of town, but look at your schedules, see what you got. Let us know what you can do, but try to make it to either one of those events. If you need more details, we certainly can provide that to you. One last thought I'll just share with you. A lot of dialogue going on right now about the 3-gate trail. Matt and I have talked to that. I'll try to keep Brody and Matt involved. Just got a request today to do a presentation to the Wasatch Front Regional Council after the first of the year on it. If you're not aware of the 3-gate trail, let me just share a thought with this. It's an active transportation trail that will run along literally the west side of Hill Air Force Base. And the trail actually goes all the way into Ogden. UP has Union Pacific has a rail line there. UDOT looks like they're going to be in a tough spot. They have to buy that rail line.
Does it have anything to do with the rail line that crosses 5600?
Bingo. That's why we're actively engaged, because that's the rail that goes right across 5600 and
That's
runs.
how they'll come underneath the freeway.
And it still goes underneath the freeway, and then goes on the east side of the freeway and runs literally along the side of Hill Air Force Base. Having availability for walking, bikes to that trail, which is kind of the plan, is really kind of a great thing. All the cities, the counties engaged. Davis County, obviously, we're going to take that to the council and see if we can get funding. Not sure if you're aware of, Governor just recently had an announcement in Wood Cross. If you read that, UDOT has to buy this land, but interesting enough, UDOT has asked us to take ownership of it. That may have changed based on the agreement between UDOT director and the governor in the latest announcement that just come out. So we're not sure where that's going to go, but at least first of the year, we're going to give the council and all the members a peek under the tent of what this is all about. Hopefully by then, UDOT and the governor's office will determine who's going to own it. Bottom line is a great asset to Royce City.
Maybe I should have taken it public when I brought that up
I was
a
in
few
that
years
meeting.
ago.
I was in that meeting, and interesting story about that.
Somebody run with my idea.
Anyway, bottom line is that it's coming, a lot of activity on it, and to be honest with you, it's going to be a great addition. Certainly will provide a lot of benefit to any kind of development that will take place on the east side of 1900. Let me repeat that. Definitely will bring a lot of benefit for development or anything you got going on the east side, because it'll be right next to that trail line.
You had to tie a mixed-use development in Harmon's right into,
It's all in there. All we got to do now is sell it, okay? Last thought, you may have seen this. Kent's Market is doing a food donation project that's going to take place on November 11th. That's Veterans Day from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's a food donation for the military. You should have seen a flyer. If you're a K-Bull fan, they're going to be down there doing some announcements and some things with that. But it's a nice flyer. I believe Brittany put this on our website and our Facebook page. It will be tomorrow. Please take a look at that. A great opportunity for us to support the hundreds of military families, okay, in terms of providing food donations for them. So a great event. This is about the second or third time I've been involved in them, but certainly the announcement that went to each of you, although they got your email wrong, Sophie, so I sent you one anyway, they're inviting the city council to join. So if you got the time on that day, this is November 11th, Veterans Day. If you can join us down at the Kent's Market, it'll be a wonderful, wonderful event. That's all I have. Any seconds before we go for a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
See how quick that went, Sophie? So moved. Motion adjourned. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There's Randy. And this is an all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. It's a good day. Got good information. Have a good day. Be safe. By the way, we got tough weather coming at us the next couple